Hello and good morning. It is Friday, the 5th of March. I must admit, I don't know where March has gone, or even February's gone this year. I must admit, since the kind of turn of the year, it's just been crazy busy, but hopefully good busy for you as well. If we don't know each other, my name is Steve Pugh. I work a lot in the northeast of England. I'm a management consultant by background. But one of the things that I recently launched is a business course called the Roadmap MBA, and it's all about real world business education to help take people to the next step and that kind of thing. If you're interested, just check out roadmapmba.com. It's gone out now to over 100 different business leaders and career kind of professionals across the UK. One in Latvia, one in Nigeria, one in Amsterdam, and then we're starting to get some interest in the USA. But for 3 to 4 weeks into the kind of public launch of the course, I must admit I kind of couldn't be happier, which is great. And I think one of the really kind of proud things for me though is that it's when you spend years and years and years producing something that hopefully other people get value from. But one of the main kind of parts of the course, which is almost one of its USPs, is that any business course or any training or whichever is great, and you'll have all the textbooks and you'll have all the theory and that kind of thing. But one of the main kind of important things is most people actually want to ask questions. You know, they want to understand how can that theory apply to them. And actually, a lot of people also just want to sense check and make sure that they're on the right track and that kind of thing. And that's largely what these live Q&A sessions are for. As I'm only a few weeks into the course and people are just starting to get a handle on it, I've learned a few kind of different things. One is actually that the course was designed to work around you in your own life. So you can pick it up for 2 minutes or 2 hours whenever you want to kind of tackle the main kind of key issues that you want to look at. But actually, because of that, people are in the middle of something, they want to start in April, that kind of thing. So actually, I've managed to achieve what I wanted to do, that it's really useful for you. But then likewise, for people that are really kind of at the start of their journey, one of the things that we'll start to do, and we've done one so far, is that for the live Q&A, we'll actually have guests on when we'll talk through their business, what they're looking at, and actually with the help of the whiteboard and some other kind of stuff, is both help them develop their business opportunity or whatever it is that they're kind of looking at, their problems, but also actually use it as a tool to help other people. So in the future, you will have lots of guests and different people that are probably in a similar position to where you are, that actually often it's a really good way to learn, especially if you don't want to kind of put yourself forward as that kind of person. What I've got for today's episode is 6 questions, which have been sent in through the week. What I always try and do is how we both teach the theory, and the people have this textbook. So it's a 216-page course textbook. They've got access to roadmapmba.com, where there's over 100 videos and that kind of thing. Sorry, I've got Tom asking what camera am I using. Hi Tom. I actually use a Canon EOS RP, and what I'll do a separate tutorial. A few people have asked me about the setup I use and the lighting and that kind of thing, so I'm going to do a completely new one soon. And actually, I also have a new studio hopefully coming soon as well, where I'm going to take this but up several levels in terms of production quality and stuff as well. But Tom, I'll do a tutorial to kind of how to use it, but the trick often is it's good lighting, not just the camera, but I'll save that for another day. But again, great kind of Q&A. But the point is that for today's kind of session with the 6 kind of questions I've got, it's people that had genuine questions about their business, that they weren't sure, you know, generally, who do you ask these kind of things? Either you pay someone, probably like me, quite a lot of money per day to do this, but that's not great for everyone and it's expensive. So actually the idea that as well as the course materials to teach you the stuff that you kind of need to know, just actually sense checking stuff with me. So today's Q&A, I'll be me running through the 6 questions, plus people like Tom, if they ever have anything they want to ask as well. And Tom, just whilst I've got you as well, I'm going to assume you're in the UK. So originally I bought this camera from Jessop's, and it was with the lens, because the lens was really important. It was quite expensive. It was about £2,000. But actually online, there's different websites where you can get the same model, exactly the same, from the Far East, and it's like half the price. But I'll save that for a separate thing. But again, hopefully we can add value for, you know, anything that you want to do in the future. So I'm going to grab a coffee, then I'm going to jump into the first question from Joe, who's a professional athlete, and basically he's asked that when you're starting a new business, at what point do you actually start to tell your customers about it? So hopefully that'll be useful, because actually there's a lot of people who have the desire to start their own business, but actually there's, and I've just been through this myself, is that there's all of the legwork that goes through to actually kind of, do the groundwork, do your designs. I'm going to, say if it's a clothing business, or in this case, say a business course, you have to write it, you have to create it, you have to do the packaging, you have to do a hell of a lot of stuff. Then if it's a physical product, have it produced, have it in your hands. So my answer to Joe, and Joe actually sent me a message, I think it was on LinkedIn. And again, anyone on the course can message me anytime, and I give them an immediate response, but then save the questions to do on the kind of live streams, that kind of thing. But my comment was that when you launch a business, there will always be people who want to buy your stuff, especially at the start. You'll have friends and family and people that want to support you. So in theory, your easiest sales will always come right at the start. And then actually there's generally a bit of a lull whilst you just raise awareness generally on what your offer is, and then it'll pick up again. But my question and my response to Joe was actually, personally, I would have the product ready, as in, you've got it ready to ship, and then actually then start to tell people, because the reason is that if you generate a buzz on social media and actually people quite like the product and what they want to do and how it works, the idea is that then it's the ability for them to just buy it straight away, especially if it's an impulse type buy that might not be a long-term kind of considered purchase. But I feel that is the better way to do it, rather than hype up the business, tell people, all the great stuff you're going to do. They want to buy it, but actually they can't because it's not going to be ready for 6 months. So hopefully that answers your question, Joe. And actually just going to do one thing, because this is a test for me. And actually it didn't work. What part of the reason why I like doing this is that for anyone that will say that will help you grow and run your business, and there are loads of them, often actually look at how do people execute themselves. As in, there's a lot of people who will talk the talk, but actually when it comes to the practice in terms of live streaming and scaling a business and giving advice, it's this kind of journey that we all kind of go on together. And one of the things I'd hoped to do on the edge of the screen right here was to actually have the chat pop up, and it didn't work. It's the first time I've tried it, but it's something for me to fix for next time. But it's this kind of real world problems that we all face. I'm human too, and actually it's just useful so that hopefully next time, as I kind of get my stuff in order, you'll actually start to see both my offer develop, but hopefully the value that I can bring to others as well. Okay, next is actually to do with how do you, or can you, or should you communicate a difficult message? So this was actually in two forms. One was actually from a teacher, where there was some miscommunication between him and a colleague, where he got an email, he didn't receive it very well. Then there was a bit of an email traffic, and actually it didn't end that well. And then likewise, actually someone else was saying, how do you give feedback to someone when it's not always positive? And one of the things that we teach on the course is also communication, how kind of important it is. And actually, what was interesting about the email example is that when you write any form of written communication, be it email, text, WhatsApp, whatever, I think it's 54% of the time it's misunderstood, in terms of what your original intent was. But then likewise, when it's misunderstood, 74% of the time, people presume it to be negative. So this is how, in purely written communication, often you can actually get crossed wires and it doesn't always end well. And the same would be if you were going to give feedback to someone, if you're their boss, that if you just write it factually on words, it doesn't always go across well. So one of the things that I was taught by a former boss myself is that if you ever need to send anything which is really important, or could be misconstrued, or actually could even just upset someone, the ability to use all the tools that you have to communicate with someone is really important, because actually we communicate a massive amount of information through our tone of voice, our body language, and all those kind of things, which actually sets the context for the written word. So what I would say in both scenarios, that if you receive an email which you don't like, I'd pick up the phone and actually just talk it through with the person. Or likewise, if you need to give feedback to someone, it's always useful to pick up the phone or sit with them in person, listen to them, give them the feedback in person, because you can kind of moderate your response and kind of work through it, and then follow up with the written factual stuff which HR or someone might actually need you to do. But the ability to communicate with everything that you have in terms of your body language, your tone of voice, everything will actually both get you a better end result, which is actually what we're all interested in, but actually just playing email tennis, and I've fell foul of it in the past as well before, where I've sent a message which I meant to be well-intentioned, but it was misread on the other end, and actually it did, it wasn't the best. So it's almost where if ever you can, pick up the phone first, or even better, see them in person, talk it through, tell them that you're going to send an email, tell them why, listen to their feedback, and then do it, rather than just press send, and actually then you don't really control the output at the other end. Hi Simon, sorry, this is the beauty of the chat. Simon's following on YouTube, and again for this format, I'm torn between, I think I might actually switch to 9 a.m. Fridays rather than 9 a.m. Thursdays, because it's a bit more relaxed. I think I've got my coffee, even though it's too hot to drink at the moment. And it's the idea that at the end of the week, when people have a bit more time, they can catch up on stuff. And I clip this all up and it goes on YouTube. And the other thing which I'm very conscious of as well is that as the course grows and we have more people on it and more people want to ask questions, I also don't want to spam people's LinkedIn feed every day, because that would become annoying. So I might actually run YouTube as the main session for the live stream Q&As, but I'll figure that out over time. Okay, the next one is a common question, and this applies to every business in every sector, no matter what you do, if you have any form of responsibility to do with sales. So in the book and in the course, what we talk about is how there's famous sales kind of techniques, and there's a great one called the straight line sales system by a guy called Jordan Belford, where basically you open at one point and then you provide information and then you try and close them. And that's essentially what they used to do back in the day in like the 80s and 90s. And it was kind of what the Wolf of Wall Street film was about, where it was almost high pressure sales, which to be honest just doesn't work anymore. But my point, and one of the main kind of key learnings and why the Roadmap MBA is different, is that I actually believe that everything before you actually ever pick up the phone or do the chat up line can actually make a massive difference. So we cover everything from yourself, who you are, your visions, your values, your branding. What are you actually trying to achieve? Because if you don't understand your goal that you're aiming for, where do you even know what direction to follow? But then actually when you roll that through in terms of your personal brand and your marketing and what you put out to people and your live streams and your podcasts and your tweets and whatever, you can actually use and build an online customer brand and a profile, with the hope being that if you do it well, that before you ever even pick up the phone to sell to someone, if they already know who you are, if they trust you, if they like you, you're probably 70-80% of the way down the buying process and you haven't even had to do anything yet. So actually what I'm going to talk about now is the point where you say hello. So not the rest of it. The rest of it is kind of covered in the course. But in terms of a good chat up line, for me, there's three kind of things to do with this. First one, it needs to be short. There's nothing worse than when you get and receive a message in your LinkedIn inbox and it's just paragraphs that I probably don't even read, so that's gone. You need to make it clear what the ask is. So if it was a recruitment firm, hi Steve, can I ask, are there any jobs that we can help with at the moment? The idea is you've made a very clear, definitive ask. One of the things which I think then helps is a justification. So it's the because, and actually we touch on this in the course, but one of the most important things you can ever say to any buyer or anyone is that I think you should buy my product because, and then you give the justification. So again, in your chat up line, you want the very clear ask, the justification for yourself and your business and why it's relevant to them. And then likewise, thank them, keep it very courteous and give them a clear call to action to either call you, to reply to the message, or whichever the next step is. But in terms of a chat up line, keep it nice and simple, nice and short. And then the other thing which is really important, and we touch on in the course, is something called lead actions. So this is where you want your clear targets of who you want to approach, and then basically just get your numbers up. Because at any one time, it's only 3% of buyers are actually ready to buy at one time. So actually, because of that, if you want to convert 3 people, you need to be hitting 100. Most people do small numbers and give up, or they don't actually do the sales ask, or they don't know what to say, or what they say is bad. And actually what that ends in is either no sales or reduced sales. But actually there's so many ways that you can help boost the growth of a company through looking at your strategy and what you offer and why it's different and the marketing and how you promote it and all this kind of good stuff before you ever actually reach out. So hopefully that's a useful one. And again, I clip these all up on YouTube. So if people just search for that one thing, hopefully they'll find it. The next is actually really interesting because I've struggled with this in the past week, is when I launched the course, and again, I'll just show it to you again. So this is, it took me years to write the content, but I also did all the graphic design, all the website, all the videos, everything you can imagine. And actually it was kind of a labor of love to get to that point. But I think we all struggle, even if you're very good at something, with putting yourself out there. And it's funny that, especially if you have a business, that if you don't talk about yourself and like promote your product, nobody can buy it. So it's really kind of important to do. But actually all of us, including me, actually really struggle sometimes to self-promote, if that makes sense. And it's something that I've struggled with. And actually some of the feedback I got with the course is that, so I'm a chartered mechanical engineer by background. I'm very techie, but I'm also very creative. But likewise, it was only actually on the last draft before I pressed print that I even put my name on it. But I also got some feedback which was to do with, well, why should people buy the course? Who do they care who you are? What's your story? And I must say it was a valid point that actually I hadn't really put that into the book, because for me, I wanted to add the value and get known for doing something which is good and have that become my brand, as opposed to make it steep you and talk about it. But actually, I'm very good friends with Charlotte from Harvey and Hugo. So Harvey and Hugo are an exceptionally good PR firm based out of Darlington that I use. And I was talking it through with Charlotte, and it's really difficult to talk about yourself, to really sell the story of what you're doing and why you're doing it. But that often helps why you would work with another partner to do that for you. And it's that kind of thing that people buy into what you do and why you do it and your backstory and that kind of thing. And it's a really funny one that part of the reason, and I talk all the way through the course about the need to use video, because when you use video, you can actually get across what you look like, what you sound like, your mannerisms, that kind of thing. And again, some people will like it and some people will hate it. And the idea is that your target market, you just focus on the people that like it. The people that don't, fine, that's kind of up to them. But it's a really difficult thing that a lot of people struggle with. I struggle with, and I guess it's the part of the imposter syndrome type stuff. And actually, I was talking to someone called Suki yesterday on this very topic, because we were talking about how you communicate yourself as being an authority and an expert on a topic. And what I joked about was that actually, when you get to the point where you've done your 10,000 hours, you've wrote your book, you really know your craft inside out. So therefore, other people might see you as an expert on the topic. Arguably, it's actually at that point you start to second guess yourself, about your knowledge and that kind of thing. So it's something we all struggle with, but actually that's where often, if you have a trusted friend or someone you can talk to, or even a PR company that you can use, just help them to craft your message so you never kind of push it too far. But it is a really important part to anyone looking to start their own business, or even for a bigger business looking to grow. Okay, the next one is interesting. So it's actually to do with, how do we break down sales targets? I'm going to do this on the board behind me. And actually, I'm going to do very quick, simple maths, because I'm bound to get this wrong because it's live, but I'll kind of do my best. Okay, where are my pens? So I have my pens. So the first thing you need to know when you break down any sales target, and this is just, to be honest, any target, is that most businesses have figures that they want to hit. It could be the recruitment sales target for your team. It could be for your business. It could, whatever it is, it's fine. The trick is to really kind of know at the top what your target is. So I'm going to start with, so your sales target is £1 million. That's what you need to hit per year. But the trick is, and what happens often, is actually that the boss will say to someone, look, your sales target is £1 million this year, but it could be 100 grand, it could be 200, it could be 20. Really, because it doesn't matter. But the important thing to know is that that's your target. And what a lot of people do, especially at the start of their career, is that they actively then just start to do stuff in the hope that it lands, that over time they just gradually do, achieve the figure. That's not great from a business point of view for many different reasons. Also, it's very difficult to manage, because likewise, it's just, you're shitting in the dark. And yes, sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you won't, but actually, when you're looking to actually actively grow a business, you need structure there. So the trick is really starting to know your conversion rates, your average sale value, and all of these different things which make a difference. So I'm going to break this down. So in this example, I'm going to try and keep the figures super simple, just because I'm doing it off the top of my head. I'm going to say that your sales target is £1 million. but your average sale is 10,000. So we'll keep it super simple. So therefore, unless I've got my maths horribly wrong, we need to sell 100 units a year to hit the £1 million. Does that make sense? So basically we've got the 1 million divided by 10,000. So the next thing to look at is actually, as I mentioned previously about your sales chat up line, you really kind of need to know your numbers on how many people do you need to approach to actually get your first meeting and how many meetings turn into sales. I'm going to keep this really simple for now. And I'm going to say realistically, if you approach 20 people, one of them might buy. It depends on different sectors. It depends on your strategy. And there's loads of things which you can do to improve that ratio. But I'm going to say 20 to 1. So therefore, to get our 100 sales, arguably, we need to approach 2,000 people over the course of the year to hit our target. Does that make sense? So that is 100 sales times the 20 equals 2,000 approaches, sales approaches, chat up lines, whatever you choose to kind of do that. The trick then is something we call lead actions in the book, and it's really kind of important, is that if you know that you work, okay, you have holiday, say 11 months a year, it's 4 weeks per month. That takes us to 44 weeks per year. 44. If we do, I'm going to do it on my phone. See, it's the beauty of doing this live. 44 times 5 equals, that's 220 days. So therefore, what we're looking to do is do 2,000. That's the 2,000 people that you need to approach based on the figures, based on the facts to actually hit your target, divided by the 220 days, which is the number of days that you work per year, which gives us 9.01 people a year. So what that does, and what we've then looked at, what we're trying to get across is that if you are the manager of a business, or even if you're the sales rep or whichever, we've done is broke down the £1 million target all the way down to the lead action of what you have to do every day to actually hit your target. And in this instance, using the basic kind of maths, you need to approach 9 people every day to have any chance of hitting your target. The reason why I think this is actually really important, both for the business and for the salesperson, because again, you never know if someone's actually going to buy or not, is that when you're looking to set up good KPI structures to actually incentivize people and kind of make the target seem realistic, seem actually kind of doable, the more you can break it down to this. If you agree with your team or whoever that they realistically work 8 hours a day, so as long as they make 10 phone calls a day so they can do their research and however they choose to kind of approach people, and we'll touch on different ways to do that kind of in the future. As long as your team, say, approach 9 or 10 people per day, and they're confident they can pick up the phone 9 or 10 times a day, what that then does is that can be their KPI that you manage them on, that they can have confidence that they can pick up and dial, and actually they know that's going to work. And then likewise, as long as they pick up and dial and actually perform the lead action, which in this case is make 9 phone calls a day, it's unfair for the business to punish them based on the figures and what the end outcome is. And what they should gradually do is learn and improve. So they might find that actually it's not 1 in 20 that converts. It could be 1 in 10, it could be 1 in 30. But actually then you would adapt and sculpt the strategy around how you approach your sales not just hit them with a stick because the sales figures aren't up to speed. So this is a very quick way for how you break down a sales pipeline, but it does work. And what it does, it's really useful to break down any major target or goal into what you class or what we call lead actions. I think it's on page 19 of the course, which then you can actually implement those. And as long as you have confidence that you pick up the phone 9 times a day, you're going to hit your target. Happy days. Cool. And then last but not least, this is actually one which came in yesterday from Scott. And it was to do with actually how do you deal with home working? And this is a really interesting one because I think it was actually in the context of also homeschooling and parenting, and there's a lot of challenges and stuff with that. And completely honest, I'm not a parent, so I'm also quite lucky that I haven't had to deal with that, but I really kind of empathize. The only one comment I would say is don't be too hard on yourself. I must admit, the past kind of year or so has been an absolute nightmare for a lot of people. Everyone is going through different stuff, and actually, no matter if you're furloughed or you worked all the way through, or you did or you didn't, or you're struggling with looking after your kids, and are you doing a good job or whichever, I think actually we all kind of struggle with those things. So as long as you can get up every day, find some sort of joy in what you're doing, get to the end of the week. Obviously it's Friday today. What time are we on? 9:25. And actually kind of just enjoy your process and just do your best. That's all you can kind of ask for. I do massively empathize for the challenges and that kind of thing, to actually kind of, manage all these things, look after your kids, keep your work going, manage the work kind of home life. But I think the trick is just know when it's the right time to stop, turn off the laptop. Don't be too hard on yourself. And then again, even with personal development stuff, if you're just really busy and tired and stuff, just, put it off. That it's wasting time. Was what my wife said. Anyway, it was to do with wasting time is never wasted time, because sometimes you need a break. So again, it's one of those things that it's why the course is 12 months long and you have the option to pick it up or put it down. It's just sometimes we're busy. So, I don't want you to have to work around someone else's timetables and that kind of thing. Anyway, cool. So no other comments have kind of come in. What I'm going to do, I think maybe next week, might even be the week after, is that I actually think that these sessions are so much better when I have a guest on and we talk through their business and what they're looking at. Some of the people I'm talking to about future guest kind of slots are people that largely want to either pivot their business or launch a new business, and what do they do and how do they do it. What I think will be quite interesting is that for them, it's a great way to talk about what they do and actually just bounce ideas off, and they're kind of getting it for free, although it's part of the course. But actually, the way that we want to structure all these conversations, it's a way that if you're sat at home and you're going to watch James or someone talk about their thoughts and ideas about how they launch this new product stream, it helps you as well. So my name's Steve. I'm going to call it quits. That's 9:27. I think I probably will stick with Fridays for these kind of moving forward. It's a bit more relaxed, and I'm looking forward to the weekend as well. If you've got any questions at all to do with anything, you can either send me a LinkedIn message, which is how the first kind of 6 came in. We've got questions@roadmapmba.com. If you want to find a bit more about the business course, and again, it's all based on real world factual stuff, which I genuinely think will help most people. If you are a world leading expert in marketing, it's not going to be the right course for you, although you probably will still learn stuff to do with sales and strategy and that kind of thing. But I do think for 95% of people, this will genuinely add value to your business or career. And if you check it out, go onto the website, there's a full walkthrough. You can actually see the entire course and I talk you through it. Because for me, the value is not only having the textbook and the resource to kind of call on, but actually it's the ability to ask questions and learn from others. And as someone going through their own journey about how you kind of take the next step, it's the ability to have that support mechanism is, arguably the USP. So that's why I'm quite open and honest about everything that I do. So thank you for your time. My name is Steve. If you've got any questions at all, please don't hesitate to get in touch, and hopefully I will see you next week. All right, have a good weekend. Cheers. Bye-bye.